Okay, you've been hearing this for 30, how many years has it been since Reagan? Reagan came into office in 81, it was 30 more or less. I can't do math in my head that fast. You've been hearing this for 29 years. Thank you, Jacob. And it'll be 30 years next January. And you've been hearing this stuff. Actually, you've been hearing it for longer than that because Reagan campaigned on it. So, arguably 30 years, 31 years maybe even. And this idea that if rich people have more money in their pockets, they're gonna give people jobs. And I've said this before. It really bears repeating. If you're a guy who owns a factory and you're selling 5,000 units a month of whatever you're making, a new iPad kind of contraption or something like that, and you suddenly get a tax cut and you're taking $1 million a year home, or you're taking $1 million a year salary, you're paying 35% income tax on it, so you're taking $650,000 a year home, and you need, say, $200,000 a year to live on, you're going to put the other $450,000 where? Are you going to pour it back into your business? Well, you might if you knew that if you took more income, you'd bump up against the top tax rate. I mean, I've actually been there. In the 1970s, we had a company, my partner Terry O'Connor and I had a company, Woodley Erber, and we were making enough money that I started hitting, I was getting up close to the 50%. This was back before the Reagan tax cuts. And I was getting close to the 50% tax bracket. And I was like, this is nuts. And so instead of taking the extra pay, I left the money in the business. And we used that money to increase our marketing budget, which increased demand, which brought more money into the company. But had my taxes as the business owner been lower, I would have taken the money out of the company, and Louise and I would have stashed it in a Swiss bank account or something. I mean, just consider the logic of this for a minute. Business owners, if their taxes are high, if their tax rates are high when they start taking out more than $1 million a year from their business, what are they going to do? They're going to leave the money in their business. I'm telling you, I've been there, I've done it. If their tax rates are low when they take massive amounts of money out of their business, as they are right now, I mean, this is why Louise and I sold the travel agency in 1986. It was because of the Reagan tax cuts. We built this business from 1983 to 86. It's the retail branch of Sprayberry Travel, the company's international wholesale travel. We built it from nothing, literally zero. We started with a $15,000 line of credit on my American Express card. And we built it to a $6 million a year company in 3 years. And at that point, it was like Reagan had cut capital gains taxes. So, hey, I'm getting the hell out of here, and I'm going to take my money and run. We moved to Germany for a year. We took the year off. Our kids traveled around the world. I mean, it was a great year. And then we kind of ran out of money and came back to the United States and started another business, started an ad agency. But the fact of the matter is that I didn't put that money back into the company. I didn't hire more people with it. I took it because my taxes were lower. And I knew that my taxes were going up the next year. So, if over the long term my taxes had been steady as they were in the 1950s, the 1960s, and the 1970s, it was that was it. Then what do? You keep the money in the business. And you grow the business. That business, by the way, is still around. It's done over $250 million in business since we sold it. Should have kept it. Yeah, but it's still there. It's still running in Atlanta, Georgia. And so, the lesson is really simple. People who own businesses that are doing well, if they're looking at high personal income tax rates, if they suck a lot of money out of their business, will keep the money in the business and grow the business. But if you give them giant tax breaks like Reagan did to me in 1986, they will take the money out of the business and run with it. I mean, isn't this just common sense? How do these guys sell this stuff? I mean, they are trying to sell, and Obama's out there, and this is, again, I had a caller last hour saying, oh, you're being too critical of Obama. And Obama goes, that Republican economic snake oil they're selling. Come on, tell us what it is, Mr. President. It's not that complicated. I just told the story. I think everybody can get it. And my story's not unique. You could find 100 small business people who did the exact same thing. who back in the days, back in the 70s, when the top income tax rate was 74%, and it wasn't that hard to hit that, well, it was hard to hit that rate, but, I mean, you know, it was still the top probably 3 or 4% of Americans. But, you know, once you hit that rate, it was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to take any more money out of my business because 74% of it's going to go to the government. I'm going to leave it in my business and let it make more money so that my business will increase in value, so that when the day comes that I sell my business, I'll have, you know, a nice nest egg. This is how small business people think. Any small, you know, now the people who are, and that's why you don't see huge institutions of small businesses or large numbers of small business people out there banging on the doors and of the news media saying, hey, I want a tax cut. Or if they are, it's because they don't give a damn about their small business. It's because they simply want to get the money and run. But the people who are pushing for low taxes for millionaires and billionaires are, guess who? People like, you know, the CEOs of giant health insurance companies who make, you know, $60, $70 million a year. Or hedge fund managers who, you know, the top 10 hedge fund managers on Wall Street who didn't produce one single damn productive thing. They didn't make one pair of shoes. They don't produce anything. The average income of the top 10 hedge fund managers on Wall Street last year was $2 billion. $2,000 million. That's 220, 240 working days in a year. That's over $10 million, almost $10 million for every single working day. How are you going to spend that money? And we should give these guys a tax break for sending our economy into a tailspin? I'm telling you, you want business people to keep their money in their business? Do what the Republican Dwight Eisenhower did. Raise their taxes to 91% after the first $1 million. Before the first $1 million, hey, pay a low rate. After $1 million, it starts going up.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
I think I got a couple people on the phone line here calling me a tax and spend liberal. This should be an interesting conversation. Stick around.